Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody to the select board meeting. It is Tuesday, January 28th. We're starting at an earlier time at 6:30 p.m. After this meeting, we will adjourn into the Finance and Warrant Commission meeting to review this year's warrant articles. So I'm going to start with just a brief update on our annual Westwood Day. We've come up with a date for the 2020 Westwood Day. It will take place on Saturday, September 26th. And after considering various dates and options, even though we won't be having a Friday night football game, there will be a Thursday afternoon game. So we're not going to be able to tie it into Friday night. People may recall we didn't this past year largely because we had to reschedule evening games for daytime because of the threat of triple E. So everything went off fine. We still had a great day. So here's hoping for excellent weather on Saturday, September 26th. People should mark their calendars and remember that the success of this day has a lot of reasons, but one of them is the volunteer turnout. People who offer their time to help run different events or provide assistance to the recreation department who plans and organizes this event. So September 26th. Any comments by anyone? Okay, all set? So let's move on to scheduled action. And I want to flip the order. I first want to start with the annual town meeting article discussion, because from that then it'll go naturally into a budget update, which is part of the annual town meeting warrant, and Pam will give us an update. So town meeting taking place on May 4th. We have a number of articles coming from the select board, mostly budgetary articles. As we have in our meeting materials, it indicates that Article 7, which is a capital article, I believe, Pam, Budget 7, I think it says they're maybe split into several articles. And that really depends on what makes the most sense regarding funding source for the capital items. But we have, let's see, 13 right now budget-related articles. And tonight, Todd, I believe you're going to not only give us an update, but you're going to be available to talk at the Finance Commission meeting about what we're calling the road improvement bond that has various DPW articles in it. So that will be very good. We have still the fire alarm system regulations article. I believe our town council has worked with the fire chief on this one.
And the building commissioner.
And the building commissioner. So this one is actually in very good shape, and good that we can discuss it tonight in more detail with the Finance Commission. Let's see, and I just want to make note of one article for town council. The one about the changing the hours for prohibition of parking, overnight parking. It refers to pending the need for the DPW to address snow and ice. And I was wondering if we could change that article to say snow and or ice. Because I believe an ice
do anything you
event,
want.
an ice event could happen, doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily a snow event, and you folks would still need people off the roads. I'm getting it granular, but
Yeah, listen, snow and ice.
is a catch-all?
Yeah, that's the way I read it. I mean, if we're gonna have an ice storm, I don't think people can legitimately argue with the fact that it's not
Okay, why don't you
snow and ice
consider
storm.
that if it needs to change? I just want to make sure
That's
that,
fine.
because we're asking for that bylaw to change so that we don't have it in effect from early November to April 1st. We are only having it in effect when there are events
Right.
that require the DPW to be on the roads and addressing.
So it's a longer
Severe weather.
length of time in terms of the hours you can't be on the street,
Right,
but it also gives discretion to the powers that be.
As to when to enforce it.
Right.
yeah. And that's what I plan to mention in the Finance Commission, that it's actually two changes within the bylaw. Okay, so why don't you just think about that? Maybe it's not necessary, it just came to mind. We have been informed that the planning board voted to withdraw 4 of their articles that we approved to be on the list, and before us would be the need to take action if we want to remove those articles, and we could do so tonight. So there were articles for the planning board, 6, 7, and 8. One was the energy efficiency zoning article, another was to impose a new affordability requirement, the third to create a construction moratorium, and the fourth to amend the open space residential development bylaw. Is there any discussion on that?
So I just want to be clear, so it's 6, 7, 8, and 9?
Yes, and they voted
which
to
one?
remove them,
Okay, good.
but it can't be removed unless we take that action.
Yes.
I'm all for removing.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
I
second.
will do that for you.
Thank you.
So I move that the select board vote to remove 4 articles withdrawn by the planning board from the article listing. The 4 articles were withdrawn by the planning board at a meeting on January 21st, 2020, and are as follows. Planning board article number 6, a zoning amendment related to energy efficiency. Planning board article number 7, new affordability requirement. Planning board article number 8, the new residential construction temporary moratorium. And planning board 9, amendments to the open space residential development bylaw.
Motion second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. Okay, and the other thing I want to note, and I'm sure it will be mentioned at the Finance Commission meeting, the planning board will hold a public hearing on all zoning related amendments that they need to conduct in a publicly posted meeting, and that will take place on Tuesday, February 25th, starting at 7 p.m. at 50 Carvey Street. Okay, any discussion? Chris, anything you want to mention on any of the articles that we need to discuss now on that? Okay.
Just a couple things came to mind. Do we have any idea what it's gonna cost for the town to do our 11 firearms?
Well, Chief Deckers told me it was about $5,500 a building.
A bill?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and if you look at the list, like the 2 over in
It'll be
Islington
done when they redo it.
will be done as part of that
Right,
renovation.
okay. I just want to anticipate that to be a question from the FinCom, is that
Yes,
what it's
that I-
gonna cost the town for the 11?
Yeah.
Is that what we have to do? Okay.
I recall when First Parish put the addition on the church building, this was part of what needed to be done in the budget at the time. I believe that's what it was. So as changes occur, this kind of upgrade, if it's the right term, needs to take place. And so there are a variety of buildings, some commercial, some religious houses, some town buildings that are on the list that need to convert.
Yeah, so if
Yeah.
you take those 2 off, there's 9, I think is what I counted from.
Right.
Yes.
So as soon as, I asked the chief for a list because I knew that would be one of the questions
Right.
from the Finance and Warrant Commission as well.
And we may not, depending on what happens with K Street and Hamlin, one of them may not have to be done.
Yep, okay. And there's how is the time determined for it to be done by June 1st, 2023, that's proposed in the bylaw?
That was Chief Decker's discretion.
Okay, so 3 years.
3 years, he thought was an adequate time to give people the plan and everything.
Yeah.
Budget for it.
Yep, budget for it as well, yes. Okay, anything else on the, I want to go back to Pam now, so I took things out of order. Since we met with you last, we now have information from the state. And why don't you give us an update on that and anything else that has changed since we
Sure.
last spoke?
So as you said, there's 13 budget articles, so those are in the packet, in your book there that we'll go through with the Finance and Warrant Commission. Those are all in line with what you went through at your last meeting, with a little bit of the cleanup and tweaking that you had talked about. We do have a balanced budget at this point with those 13 articles. I don't know if you want to look through those or.
I don't think we need to unless there's anything that the board members want to talk about in particular. And I think tonight, the plan is not to go through the operating budget. You'll give an overview, but to talk more about the capital items. There's a lot of progress being made on that, still some more work being done. I know we're planning to talk about the chief's request for funding for the fire, I'll call it fire truck, what do we want to call that? Swap vehicle?
Swap body.
Swap body vehicle, asking for just matching funds, because he's going to pursue the grant money, and then maybe if we aren't successful, we'll come back for that. If we are successful, we just fund the match. But some of the bigger things that we've been talking about, we'll give an update, give a progress report of where we are in looking at the fields in a general sense, and that's certainly one that's ongoing. I think the most important one we have is what Todd's going to be there to talk about, Todd and Brendan, to talk about the.
Can I did just need to follow up on the
Yeah,
state aid.
please.
So I did give you just a handout,
Yeah.
2 pages. So since you last met, the governor did release his budget.
Yes.
And we have incorporated that into the overall budget, and that has allowed us to balance out. So the first sheet you have there is just a layout of our state aid. So his budget for FY '21, $6.6 million, a 3.8% increase over the current year. And we've talked before, you can see by the bar graph on the top there, it's just been a very slow, steady increase in state aid for the last couple of years. Nothing too exciting. But that's a $228,000 increase in our Chapter 70, education aid, and $21,000 in municipal aid. Since we have that number now, and since we have all of the budget articles, I did just want to point out on the second page, our tax levy. So we've been able to go in and update our proposed tax levy for FY '21. So the column on the right shows our budget. We use this document to kind of go through with the, not we won't go through it tonight, but on the budget night with the FinCom, to show that Prop 2.5 is really just a calculation that we run through. You'll recall when we first talked in the early budget, we were looking to have about $578,000 in unused tax levy. And as we go now and balance out, that number is about $200,000. That's on a budget basis. That last line in the chart on the top shows our excess levy every year for the last several years. And I just want to point this out. That's under Prop 2.5, you can raise up to a limit. You might actually raise less, and the excess is the difference. So it's the board making decisions to not tax people more than they have to each year by this degree. So in FY '17, that was $1.5 million, just over $1 million in FY '18 and '19, $800,000 in the current year. That's really pretty significant excess levy to have. And again, it's been part of the board's decision process during the budget to try to incorporate ways to lessen that tax bill increase each year. And that is the primary way to do it. So right now on a budget basis, our preliminary budget, a month or so ago, we had $578,000, which was the full university station related excess levy. We did need to use some of that to balance out our budget. And you'll recall that's because the school municipal operating budgets are coming in at about 3.5, 3.6%, little bit higher than what we can afford under the 2.5 without using that money. So we have made that adjustment. There's still excess levy. On a budget basis, we expect that to be higher on an actual basis once all that closes out.
Okay. And there's no reason to think that that aspect of the governor's budget would be anything other than that going forward. Usually when that number comes out, that's consistent.
We
and
expect that
holds.
to be the floor.
Yeah.
You know,
Some other
sometimes-
items might be debated, but not that.
Yes, sometimes it goes a little bit higher, but
Yeah.
we don't expect that to be cut, so we are incorporating that number.
Any
It's
questions?
not a lot, but at least it's in the right direction.
Yes.
Yes,
But,
Was
so
it
I have no
always that way?
questions of Pam, but I did have one question on the WEAC. Did we remove the word shall?
Yeah, I think if you look closely,
Yeah.
I looked at it today, it's in red and it's crossed
Still
out.
in, no, it's not crossed out, but it's in red.
Okay.
So-
think
I will mention it,
Yeah,
that
okay.
we
We took
just.
that word out.
No, you look in the blue, the one in the blue is what you, if you're looking on, look down, the one in the blue, that's the one, that's the language you approved,
I'm looking at it.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
looking
I
at-
saw,
I'm looking at
I saw it as crossed out,
Yeah,
so.
it's great, okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Not trying to sneak it back in.
We talked about removing that and voted to have it removed at the last meeting as being contradictory to it being a non-binding
Right.
article, so it wasn't a word that was necessary.
Okay.
The intent of the article still holds. Okay.
I see, okay.
You all set?
Yes.
All right. The only other business we need to talk about tonight relates to the school building committee. And there are a couple of requests that have come to us that allow the school building committee to do the business it needs to. The owner's project manager, Compass Project Management, needs us to approve allowing our town administrator to execute any local action and approvals certificates necessary for submission to the Massachusetts School Building Authority as part of the school building project. We've been provided with an example. Just by approving this tonight, we aren't actually approving any particular action, but we would be approving, giving the authorization to the town administrator to review such requests and act on them as he deems to be appropriate. So it's not uncommon that this happens, and Compass Project Management is just ahead of the game to get us to have this in place.
We actually did it with Mike in the beginning when we first put our application, and we authorized Mike to sign.
We
first.
did as well, yeah. So any questions on that?
No, it's purely ministerial.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so I move that we authorize the town administrator to execute on behalf of the select board the local action and approval certificate, which accompanies various design submissions to MSBA, which is the Massachusetts School Building Authority, as part of the town's invitation to the Mass School Building Authority for the Hanlon School project. Such certificate shall only be executed with the approval of the school building committee.
So that means it gets discussed and approved
And
and
then
then
you sign.
goes to Chris.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. And the next item, this one is another request from Compass Project Management for us to give the town administrator the authority to execute any budget revision requests, referred to as BRRs, for submission to the Massachusetts School Building Authority, again, as part of the school building project. Let's see, the budget revision request allows the school building project team, with school building committee approval, to move funds from one Massachusetts School Building Authority budget category to another. It doesn't increase the overall budget, it allows for movement within the budget. And it requires multiple signatures. If we vote to do so, our authority would go to the town administrator. The superintendent of schools also signs, the school committee chair. I'm wondering if that's a school building committee or maybe, well, if it says school committee chair, we'll take it as that. And the designated Massachusetts Building Authority representative. Any discussion on that?
No, it seems pretty straightforward.
Okay, motion?
I move that we authorize the town administrator to execute any budget revision requests, known as BRRs, required under the Massachusetts School Building Authority program to allocate appropriated funds from one budget category to another as part of the town's invitation to the MSBA for the Hanlon School project. Such budget revision requests shall only be executed with the approval of the school building committee.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. I don't know that we got the minutes, but I know I didn't
No.
review any, okay. So that's fine, we're caught up other than that. Any questions from the public or press? Okay, hearing none. Anything, Chris, anything else we need to do?
I didn't know if you wanted Todd to just quickly go over them all.
Since we have time, are you willing to give it a little dry run?
Sure.
Why don't you highlight for us what's included and just generally what you plan to provide for the Finance Commission tonight?
Okay. It's pretty much a cookie cutter version of what was presented last year, and even earlier this year, or late last year,
Yes.
before the select board. Basically, the initial presentation begins with our pavement management program, essentially being the driving force behind what we pick and choose for candidates each and every year. That said, obviously, money weighs into the equation too, as far as what we're able to do and what we're able to achieve. But basically, the first slide depicts that. Do you guys have this in your packet?
Yeah, we probably have. And Todd, just for the record, you keep a running track and project out what you need to be doing each year.
We definitely do.
You don't come to this year and say, what should we do this year?
No, and Brendan can attest to this as well. We project out 3 to 4 years on every one of our projects. Obviously, from a budgeting standpoint, we have to see where we are. It's been tight with Chapter 90, so especially because of that. But that said, every year, winter has its effect and things are subject to change and fluctuate. But we've been pretty consistent and pretty fortunate, at least over the past 4 years, that what we projected out, we've pretty much held true to. But again, getting into the point of the bond, it would allow us as a department and the entire community to be more flexible and expand upon what we've been doing. So that said, essentially, we're dealing with the 4 major components of the bond again this year, that being the Route 109 pavement project. As everybody has noticed and commented on very positively too, it's been the feedback with respect to the sidewalks that we're able to construct this past summer and complete. And again, the reviews have been nothing but very positive throughout the community, feedback we've received. So that said, we'd like to go now and complete the entire project, come in, completely resurface all 109 limits of the project, essentially being from Route 128 all the way up to the Bubbling Brook Walpole Town Line. And to me, that's like the frosting on the cake with the project that we just completed last summer with the sidewalks. This would only aesthetically look amazing and function a lot better than what the current infrastructure has.
It's a heavily used road, it
It's
doesn't
very
hold up
heavily
forever.
used, yeah. And we're looking to enhance the markings, I've mentioned on a few different occasions, the recessed reflectivity within the lanes themselves, safety features that we don't currently have in all the locations. We do have them in some, but just make it consistent throughout the entire corridor. The second component of the bond are the crosswalk safety improvements that we've been speaking about. Again, we completed this study about a year and change ago. It is still in draft form, and I keep stressing that because I didn't really feel comfortable in finalizing everything that was in that program until we had a commitment from the town, or at least appeared to be looking like we were moving in that direction. That said, the study is very, very detailed that we have. It consists of a matrix that really evaluates all 202 locations throughout the community. And that said, too, another question that's been frequent is, are all 202 crosswalks going to be addressed? And the simple answer to that is no, because in theory, with some of our paving projects, even this past summer, we've addressed some of those deficiencies, some of which have been ADA compliancy, some of which have been some signage enhancements. So yes,
You're already doing some of it.
we are already doing some, but we do have a cost estimate associated with the remainder of the work. So that is a component of the bond. Another major component of the bond are the paving and sidewalk enhancements that we would like to take on. That obviously the $540,000 that we receive each year annually from Chapter 90 are not even close to what we need to complete some of these projects that a lot of our residents have been inquiring about and requesting for a number of years. Major project is installing new sidewalk along Hartford Street. There is an existing sidewalk there, but this is installing a brand new sidewalk in the same location that the existing is in. But by incorporating granite curbing, you're creating a curbing reveal, incorporated concrete sidewalks, which has been consistent with our new theme throughout the community. Just making a much safer atmosphere for a lot of residents to take advantage of, whether they're walking to the local elementary school or to the middle school or to the high school. So that's one aspect of where this money would be spent. High Rock as well, same idea, improvements to that sidewalk infrastructure. Another example would be East Street, where the bridge project left off. If you continue up to Smith, where we completed a heck of a project years ago with the Safe Routes to School project with the Downey School, this would complete that network of sidewalks and making it consistent. Another gap that we have is on Pond Street, from essentially Lakeshore up to just before the Sheehan School. There's a gap with just bituminous sidewalk, which is asphalt sidewalk, not concrete. So a lot of it is making it consistent, and especially with now what the residents again have seen with Route 109, the consistency, the safety factor, the smoothness, the
And
overall
the
aesthetic
durability,
value,
right?
the
This will last a
durability,
long time.
your curbing reveal. We're not dealing with broken asphalt anymore. there's just so many positives and pros to this program with respect to that portion of the bond. And the last component essentially is pavement preservation, and I think the real important theme that everybody has to be aware of, incorporating this road improvement bond is going to make us so much more flexible with our Chapter 90. I don't have a set number for the pavement preservation because it's our hopes that we can be so much more flexible in utilizing this funding, utilizing the aggressive bidding nature that we have, and having some residual left over with our Chapter 90 that, in theory, Chapter 90 is its own well of money, but it's part of this bond package that we're gonna have some remainder left every single year now that we can put towards crack sealing, fog sealing, microsurfacing, which are critical components. Everybody thinks of, let's just mill and overlay a road, and that's the best thing you can do. In theory, the best thing you can do is be proactive as a community and take on these preventative measures if you can afford to do so at the right time. And that expands the lifetime of your pavement. It maintains your current rating that we have, which is extremely high. So again, flexibility is huge, and incorporating this program into our community is gonna allow us to do so.
So if this does get approved by town meeting, you're gonna have a busy couple of years ahead.
We will. And I think
Are
it's
you up for that?
Yes, very much so.
Okay, that's the right answer.
Well, I think it's important to know too, I mean, we all discuss, numbers and individuals like Brendan and staff that are out there every day throughout the course of these projects are critical. I mean, it's great to have it on paper and move forward and bid without an individual like Brendan and some of the team members that we have that are out there daily focusing on these projects actually getting done and getting done the right way with punch lists, and there's so much more that goes to it. This seems like a lot, the other end of it is, so it's,
I just want to comment, and I think examples are worth giving to the extent that they're appropriate when we're talking to the Finance Commission or town meeting. When you think of the Bubbling Brook intersection, when you think of Clapboard Tree down to Washington Street and that intersection, they happened quite quickly for large projects, and they have vastly improved those intersections. And they're recent, they were managed well, they were done in a very timely manner. So I think those are intersections that people can relate to, that you can remember that, boy, they are so much better. They're safer, they're more pedestrian friendly. So much is better for those projects having been completed. And Pam, you'll be ready to talk about how this fits in where previous road bond has come due or been completed. So I think the financing aspect of it will be helpful for the Finance Commission discussion. Okay, any questions?
My guess would be it goes through pretty easy, because last year, we ended up pulling it back, and I think we heard from more people that we should have pushed it forward.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be
But that was a funding
much
issue,
easier
so
this
I
year.
think we're,
Yes.
1 year difference,
Right.
we're good, we're right back with it.
I think at the time, yeah, but I think we understood where we were, but with respect to the project that we did on 109, I think that was actually a good piece to put before the community to say, here's a very small portion of what we can do, and it was
Yeah,
very effective.
well received,
Yes.
So,
yeah. And a lot of things are taking place throughout town, so it's really broadly helping the community. Okay, anything else? All right, can we have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we
Into-
adjourn into the FinCom meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're done. See you at the Finance Commission meeting.